Hello and welcome. Today we journey back in time to explore the tumultuous years of the First World War. From 1914 to 1918, this global conflict transformed the political landscape and left an indelible mark on human history. Millions of lives were lost, empires crumbled, and a new world order emerged from the ashes of war. Join me now as we delve into the causes, key events, and lasting consequences of this pivotal moment in our collective past. And don't forget to like and subscribe to learn more about the fascinating events that have shaped our world. To understand the outbreak of World War I, we must first examine the simmering tensions that had been brewing for decades. The early 20th century was a period of intense political maneuvering and strategic alliances, as nations sought to protect their interests and expand their influence. Europe at the turn of the 20th century was a powder keg of competing alliances, each nation vying for power and prestige. The intricate web of treaties and agreements meant that any conflict had the potential to escalate rapidly, drawing multiple countries into the fray. Militarism, the belief in the importance of a strong military force, was rampant. Nations glorified their military might, holding grand parades and showcasing their latest weaponry. This arms race created a climate where war was not only expected but seen as a legitimate means of resolving disputes. Nations poured resources into building up their armies and navies, creating an atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust. The Industrial Revolution had provided the means to produce weapons on an unprecedented scale, and countries were eager to demonstrate their newfound capabilities. Imperialism, the pursuit of acquiring colonies for economic and political gain, further fueled the rivalry between European powers. The scramble for Africa and Asia saw nations competing fiercely for control of territories rich in resources, leading to numerous conflicts and confrontations. Competition for colonies in Africa and Asia created friction and resentment, pushing nations closer to the brink of conflict. The desire to expand empires and secure strategic advantages often led to aggressive foreign policies and military interventions. Nationalism, a powerful force that emphasized national identity and pride, also played a significant role. This fervent patriotism often translated into a belief in national superiority, further exacerbating tensions between countries. It fostered a sense of superiority and rivalry among nations, making them less willing to compromise or back down in the face of perceived threats. The combination of these factors created a volatile environment where the spark of war could ignite at any moment, leading to the devastating conflict that would become World War I. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, on June 28, 1914, provided the spark that ignited the powder keg of Europe. The Archduke and his wife, Sophie, were visiting Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia, when they were shot and killed by Gavrilo Princip, a Serbian nationalist. Austria-Hungary, blaming Serbia for the assassination, issued an ultimatum with demands so severe that Serbia could not possibly accept them all. This diplomatic failure set off a chain reaction. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, prompting Russia to mobilize in support of its ally. Germany, bound by its alliance with Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia and then on France, Russia's ally. Germany's invasion of neutral Belgium to attack France brought Great Britain into the war, and within weeks most of Europe was engulfed in conflict. The Western Front, a 400-mile stretch of land from the English Channel to Switzerland, became synonymous with the brutality and stalemate of World War I. Here, soldiers on both sides dug elaborate trench systems protected by barbed wire, machine guns, and artillery. Attacks across no man's land, the desolate area between opposing trenches, resulted in horrific casualties with little ground gained. World War I saw the introduction of new technologies that revolutionized warfare, making it more deadly than ever before. Machine guns could mow down advancing troops with terrifying efficiency. Artillery barrages rained down on enemy positions, obliterating entire landscapes. Poison gas, a horrifying new weapon, was used to devastating effect, causing agonizing deaths and lingering suffering. Section 5. A vast battlefield, the Eastern Front and the Gallipoli Campaign. While the Western Front was characterized by trench warfare and stalemate, the Eastern Front was marked by greater fluidity and vast distances. The battles here were not confined to narrow trenches but spanned across vast plains, forests and mountains, making it a dynamic and unpredictable theatre of war. Here, Germany and Austria-Hungary faced off against Russia, with battles raging across vast swathes of Eastern Europe. The sheer scale of the Eastern Front meant that entire armies could maneuver and engage in large-scale operations. Unlike the static nature of the Western Front, the Eastern Front saw some of the war's most mobile campaigns, but it was no less brutal, with millions of casualties on both sides. The harsh weather conditions, ranging from scorching summers to freezing winters, added to the soldiers' suffering and the logistical challenges faced by both sides. The Gallipoli campaign, an attempt by the Allies to capture the Ottoman capital of Constantinople, now Istanbul, was another costly failure. The campaign was marked by fierce fighting, difficult terrain and strategic missteps that ultimately led to its failure. The campaign, fought in 1915, saw heavy casualties on both sides and ended in an Allied withdrawal. The soldiers faced not only the enemy but also harsh conditions, including extreme heat, disease, and a lack of adequate supplies. The Gallipoli campaign had a profound impact on Australia and New Zealand, where it is remembered as a defining moment in their national histories. The bravery and sacrifice of the Anzac troops are commemorated annually on Anzac Day, a day of national remembrance in both countries. Section 6, Global Struggle, the Allied and Central Powers. World War I was a truly global conflict, drawing in nations from around the world. The Allied powers, led by France, Russia and Great Britain, were later joined by Italy, Japan and the United States. The Central Powers, consisting of Germany, Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire, were joined by Bulgaria. The war raged not only in Europe but also in Africa, the Middle East and Asia. Colonial troops played a significant role in the conflict, fighting for their European rulers on distant battlefields. The global nature of the war highlighted the interconnectedness of the world and the far-reaching consequences of European imperialism. Section 7. The Home Front War's Impact on Civilians. World War I had a profound impact on civilians, both in combatant nations and beyond. Governments mobilized their economies for war production, leading to shortages of food and other essential goods. Women took on new roles in factories and shipyards, filling the void left by men fighting at the front. Propaganda became a powerful tool used by governments to maintain morale and demonize the enemy. The war also led to widespread social and political upheaval. The Russian Revolution of 1917, sparked in part by the strains of war, led to the overthrow of the Tsar and the establishment of the Soviet Union. The war's end brought about the collapse of empires, redrawing the map of Europe and the Middle East. Section 8. A Flawed Peace. The Treaty of Versailles. After 4 long years of devastating conflict, the guns finally fell silent on November 11, 1918. The world breathed a collective sigh of relief as the Great War, which had claimed millions of lives and caused unprecedented destruction, came to an end. The armistice marked a moment of hope and a chance for nations to rebuild and recover from the horrors of war. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, officially ended the war and imposed harsh penalties on Germany. The treaty was the result of months of negotiations among the Allied powers, who sought to ensure that Germany would never again pose a threat to peace in Europe. The signing took place in the opulent Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles, a setting chosen to symbolize the restoration of order and stability. Germany was forced to accept blame for the war, cede territory, disarm its military, and drastically reduce its armed forces. The treaty also demanded that Germany relinquish its overseas colonies and return territories such as Alsace-Lorraine to France. These territorial losses were a significant blow to German pride and economic stability. Additionally, Germany was required to pay massive reparations to the victors, a financial burden that crippled its economy and led to hyperinflation. The reparations were intended to compensate the Allied nations for the immense costs of the war, but they also fueled resentment and hardship among the German population, who felt unfairly punished. The treaty, while intended to prevent future wars, sowed the seeds of resentment and instability that would contribute to the outbreak of World War II just 2 decades later. The harsh terms and economic strain created fertile ground for extremist ideologies to take root, ultimately leading to the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. The Treaty of Versailles also led to the creation of the League of Nations, an international organization aimed at preventing future wars through diplomacy and collective security. The League was envisioned as a forum where nations could resolve their disputes peacefully and work together to maintain global stability. However, the League proved ineffective in addressing the underlying causes of international tension and ultimately failed to prevent the outbreak of another devastating global conflict. The inability of the League to enforce its resolutions and the lack of participation from key powers undermined its mission, leading to a world once again on the brink of war. Section 9. Echoes of the Past. Learning from the Great War. The First World War stands as a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict and the devastating consequences of unchecked nationalism, militarism, and imperialism. As we reflect on this pivotal moment in history, we must strive to learn from the mistakes of the past and work towards a more peaceful and just world. By understanding the causes and consequences of World War I, we can better appreciate the importance of diplomacy, cooperation, and understanding in our own time. Let us remember the millions who perished in the trenches and on the battlefields of World War I, and let their sacrifice serve as a constant reminder of the importance of peace and the need to resolve conflicts through dialogue, not violence.